everyone, and welcome to our Smart Webinar series. I'm Andrea Catazone, co-founder of Senior Living Smart, and I'll be your host for our webinar today. Today's webinar, 5 Key Insights into Employee Engagement to Stabilize Your Workforce, will be about 30 to 40 minutes, followed by a Q&A session. And so now I'd like to welcome our speaker, Lynn Ackerman, co-founder of SenSite Surveys. SenSite Surveys is a research company that focuses exclusively on measuring employee and resident engagement for senior living companies and helping them act on their survey results. Prior to establishing SenSite Surveys in 2004, Lynn worked as senior market research analyst for a large senior living company that owned and operated 350 senior living communities. Lynn has her PhD in experimental psychology from the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. So welcome, Lynn. So glad to have you here today.
Thanks, Andrea. I'm happy to be here. And greetings to my fellow senior living advocates. Today, I would like to mark the date as June 11th, the year 2020, because as we come together today, we are still in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. I know that most of your energy these days is focused on protecting the health and well-being of your residents, your team members, yourselves, and by extension, your families at home. And I'm guessing you're tired of hearing the phrases COVID-19 and coronavirus and are hoping for something new and optimistic. So I decided to bring it up, but only briefly to make this disclaimer. Today, we're going to talk about how to engage your employees to maximize retention and improve your bottom line. You may find that a few of the ideas you see today can be implemented right away, but no doubt others will need to wait. Nobody expects you to do everything you see today. While the topics of employee engagement and retention are important, it may not be realistic to implement many of the ideas you hear until the pandemic is passed and you could go back to business as usual. But other ideas will be very easy to implement right away. There will be handouts available after the webinar providing you with checklists to accomplish the ideas that will be shared today. And now, onto the webinar. Today we are going to talk about 4 things. Number 1, to what extent and why the senior living industry is experiencing a workforce crisis and how things seem to be changing by the day. Number 2, building a culture of engagement for our employees is more important than ever before, so we can keep them happy and in place. 3, I'm going to show you how engaged employees help you in your business using real findings from research. And 4, finally and most important, I'm going to reveal proven ideas for engaging your employees in areas that drive engagement the most so you can get the biggest bang for your buck. What is the biggest challenge facing senior living operators today? Well, I may have led the witness on this one, but what I'm hearing is that it is attracting, retaining, and developing a quality workforce. A few well-known senior living industry news sources recently asked this question to some highly visible and prominent leaders in senior living. The question was, what is the biggest challenge facing senior living operators today? And here are some of the answers they gave. Attracting and retaining a quality workforce, recruiting qualified staff, retaining caregivers, developing caring staff, and establishing career pathways. According to Argentum's president, James Balda, the senior living industry will need to fill spots for an estimated 1.4 million workers between now and 2025. And there are a number of factors contributing to this workforce gap. Contributing factor number 1, a combination of current turnover rates and projected industry growth. The 1.4 million needed workers represent 281,000 new jobs due to industry growth and expansion, and more than 1 million replacement jobs for industry workers who are either retiring or exiting senior living. Contributing factor number 2, unemployment. Prior to the current pandemic, the US had been experiencing the lowest unemployment environment in 49 years. This graph that you see here shows that in April of 2019, the unemployment rate was 3.6%, which hadn't been seen since December of 1969. So a year ago, our available workforce pool was at an all-time low, and competition for qualified employees was at an all-time high. But then this happened. This chart is showing unemployment claims for the first 4 months of 2020. If you look at April of 2020, exactly 1 year after the chart I just showed you, these are unemployment claims coming in by the million per week. And I believe there are currently over 40 million unemployment claims on the books. So here's the paradox. As of May 9th, 1/3 of COVID-19 deaths in the US came from nursing home residents and workers. So there may be a public perception of risk for working in a senior care setting. But on the other hand, this is the senior care industry's chance to help displaced workers, fill open positions, and most importantly, show those who otherwise might not have been exposed to our line of work just how rewarding it is. There are literally millions of people who have spent years providing great customer service in the restaurant industry, the bar industry, the retail industry, the hotel industry, and now they're all looking for jobs. So how do we control public perception? And how do we recruit these individuals? Well, I'm going to share some resources for you at the end of the webinar. And what it is, Argentum has developed a website just to help you with this called Senior Living Works. So if we have time, I'll bring it up on my screen at the end of the webinar, but if not, just look it up yourself. It's Senior Living Works. Contributing factor number 3, the Millennial Generation. Finding and keeping good employees has always been a challenge for senior living, but things have gotten harder since the Millennial Generation began entering the workforce. And if you have attended a senior living conference in the last 5 to 10 years, and went to a session on workforce development, I wouldn't be surprised to hear that you've heard something about the Millennial Generation in that session. Millennials who are currently in their early 20s to late 30s now make up 50% of the workforce. This generation grew up on technology, on social media, on fast-paced video and sound bites. They have been taught that their voice matters and that everyone can be a star using social platforms like YouTube and Facebook Live, Snapchat, etc. They expect to be engaged since they grew up on cultural movements like the Me Too movement. So they're looking for passion everywhere. And when that doesn't happen at work, they're willing to leave in search of new adventures. One study showed that millennials are projected to change jobs up to 20 times in their career. Our research here at Sensite shows that about 65% of senior living employees are loyal to their workplace by agreeing that they rarely think of leaving to work elsewhere. This means the other 35% have mixed feelings or disagree with this statement and they're thinking about moving on to new employment. And for those of you who have had to replace lost employees, you know that doing so takes a tremendous amount of time, effort, and money. So what's the solution? In today's world, successful companies see the employer-employee relationship as a two-way street. These companies realize that the old model of employer-employee relationship of just do what I say is obsolete. They realize that their employees are their most important investment. They are finding that time spent nurturing that investment pays off many times over. Jack Welch, the former CEO of General Electric, has been quoted as saying, "There are only 3 measurements that tell you nearly everything you need to know about your organization's overall performance: employee engagement, customer satisfaction, and cash flow." It goes without saying that no company, small or large, can win over the long run without energized employees who believe in the mission and understand how to achieve it. So picture it as a trickle-down effect. You have employee engagement at the top, and because they're providing outstanding service, customers become delighted. And when you have a delighted resident, They tell the world how amazing your community is, and they refer others to you. And when that happens, you get more move-ins, your occupancy goes up, and ultimately you have greater cash flow and profitability. This is a proven trickle-down effect that starts with engaging our employees. So what is employee engagement? When it comes to our employees, engagement embodies a level of enthusiasm that goes beyond simply feeling satisfied or complacent. It connotes a willingness to expend extra energy on behalf of the organization to help it succeed. Engaged employees are your loyal fans, your ambassadors, and your advocates. They recommend your community wholeheartedly as a place to live and a place to work without reservation. This chart here is comparing organizations in the US who are in the top quartile of employee engagement to organizations who are in the bottom quartile. So Gallup organization surveyed and interviewed over 1 million workers across the US, and they found these differences when comparing top to bottom quartile organizations. The top organizations in employee engagement have 37% lower absenteeism, 25% lower turnover, 21% higher productivity, 10% higher customer ratings, and 22% greater profitability. And the evidence says that just being satisfied at work is not enough to produce these outcomes. Employees must be highly engaged. Okay, so let's talk about how to boost engagement in 3 critical areas. As we talk about each of these areas, I'll be providing you with a checklist of ideas you can implement in your community to increase employee engagement and retention. Let me be clear that the ideas that I'm about to share with you come directly from research that has been done with senior living employees, as well as action plans our clients have written that have led to an increase in employee engagement. So we know that they work. You are going to see some overlap across the lists that I share because some of these ideas have the benefit of impacting all 3 drivers of engagement. So what are the 3 drivers of engagement we're going to talk about? I want to work for an exciting culture and mission. I want a boss who really cares, and I want to be recognized as a valued contributor. So let's start by talking about working for an exciting culture and mission. Senior living has the advantage over other industries of being a passion-driven industry. From the moment we catch the attention of a potential candidate, we have the opportunity to begin sharing our culture of caring for seniors, as well as the core values we share within our organization. One of the best things we can do is to use this advantage to define an exciting and healthy culture for our candidates and employees, and more importantly, live it every day before them. If we don't, the culture that forms naturally in place of our efforts will be sure to define us instead, and often the outcome is not good. As a leader and role model for your community, be the beacon that emulates your mission and core values every day, and reward your employees for doing the same. I'm going to show you one way to do this on the fly with core value cards. A whole lot of day one. Companies with an established onboarding process see 50% more productivity from new hires who are still around after 3 years. So day one and the onboarding process that follows is very important for setting the stage. Hopefully your recruiting and interview efforts have sent a positive message about your community culture to new hires. Do something memorable right out of the box to make a lasting impression. Set the stage. Welcome them into the family. Celebrate. You are now part of our tribe. You're about to go on a great adventure. What do you want new employees to say about you when they get home from work on that first day and their spouse or family member asks how it went? Be one of those defining moments in their lives so years from now when someone asks them about the best job they ever had, they think of you. So let's look at the day one checklist, a whole lot of day one. So again, these are ideas that come directly from the research we have done and the action plans our clients have written and seeing their employee engagement go up as a result of these plans. Number one for day one, send a welcome letter to the employee's home before the first day. If you send them a letter, it puts them at ease, it sets expectations, and it relieves their anxiety about showing up on that first day. It also shows that you're really excited and you're thinking about them. Be waiting for them when they arrive. Instead of having them walk into a front desk area where nobody's there, do your best to be waiting for them when they walk in. Make the first official clock-in a joining of the family. Have a welcome banner or floor sign at the front entrance with their name on it, welcoming them into the community and into the family. Offer them a welcome package. It could be a basket that has their name badge and uniform in it, their key card, notes from their new coworkers, snacks, core value cards, and promo items. And then provide a tour of the community. You may have already done this at this point, but do it again. And while you're touring them through the community, introduce them to staff members who will be their fellow workers and residents. And then do provide them with a formal orientation. In addition to being held by the hand and feeling like they're being braced and walking into a brand new exciting adventure, they also do need some structure. So do provide a formal orientation on that first day where you do what you would typically do, share the organization's mission and values. You might have some video that they would watch, talk about policies and procedures, give them their employee handbook, and then discuss their personal goals and what they want to accomplish by working for your organization. And then assign them a mentor that they shadow for the rest of the day. They can work with this experienced employee to do some light training, to talk, ask questions, eat lunch together, etc. And then they could continue working with that mentor after day one as well as they try to achieve their training goals for the first 3 months of their work there. So you could choose any of these, all of them, or just a few. The point is to start off on the right foot with an inspirational first day. So that's culture and mission. But how do we continue this after day one? A great boss. 70% of employee engagement stems from having a good boss. I'm sure you've heard the expression, people don't leave their jobs, they leave their boss. Put another way, people are more likely to stay at their job if they have a great boss. So what makes a great boss? According to our research, communities that receive the highest engagement scores have leaders who do these things. They consistently align their own behavior with the company's mission and core values. They show a sincere interest in the well-being of their team members. They maintain an open door policy that encourages consistent two-way communication. They treat everyone fairly. They keep their team members accountable, and they keep their promises. So it's caring and accountability, and you can't have one without the other if you want to be an effective leader. Here are a few real quotes from employees we surveyed from communities with high employee engagement scores. I have never worked for a company so caring and wanting the best for their employees. The management team works so well as a team. Our supervisor is very easy to talk to both personally and professionally. She helps us with anything that we might be struggling with. I'm guessing many of you are bosses, and you wouldn't be in your position if you hadn't already proven to someone that you can be an effective leader. But if some of these behaviors or characteristics that I'm about to show you are not things you're used to doing or are simply outside your comfort zone, nobody expects you to take it on all overnight. I'm about to give you a checklist of ideas, and if you commit to just adding 1 or 2 of these to your repertoire, you'll be moving in the right direction. The caring and accountability checklist. So the first 5 items on this list emulate caring, and the next 6 focus not only on accountability, but the desire to learn and grow and possibly advance to new positions in the company. And the last one on here is about showing recognition for your employees' efforts, which we'll explore in greater detail as the third driver. So let's look at the items on this checklist. Be a role model of the company mission. So that is now the 3rd or 4th time you've heard me say that. But by doing that, you're showing a high level of caring, because what is your mission? No doubt it has to do with caring for residents and being a compassionate person and showing love and caring for others. So be a role model of that mission through your own behaviors. Show it every day. Get to know me, your new employees say. Get to know, it's okay to get to know your employees on a personal level. Get to know their family life, their personal goals, stressors that they have in their lives, their second job. Not only does it show that you care, that you want to get to know them at this level, it gives you a lot of information so you understand where they're coming from. If they happen to come in late on a certain day or they call off unexpectedly, you might know it's because they have a sick child at home, for example, and you could show compassion through that and come up with a way to replace them for that day. Focus on my personal well-being and growth. So not only focusing on well-being and caring for them as an individual, but giving them growth opportunities. They may come into your community with the goal of moving to a new position after a year. So understanding what those growth goals are for them and focusing on those as well will go a long way towards showing caring. Model and encourage open communication and transparency. They need to know that they can come to you if they have a question, a concern, or a compliment or an idea about how to improve the community. So maybe you have your door open most of the time, giving people permission to walk in, or maybe you set office hours. We've seen both. No doubt community leadership individuals are very busy, and some do have to close their doors sometimes. So they'll put up a note up on the door that they have office hours between this time and this time on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, for example. Give me autonomy, but let me fail. I attended a client summit this past February. This is a client who has an all-company summit every year, and they invited me to attend this past February. And we happened to measure both resident satisfaction and employee engagement for this client. And we noticed that there was one community that scored in the top 3 on resident satisfaction and the top 3 on employee engagement out of hundreds of communities. So at this summit, they brought the executive director up on stage and they congratulated her and they awarded her with a plaque, and they showed her a video that was made back at the community where employees were congratulating her and telling her how awesome she was. And then they asked her, so what's your secret sauce so you could share it with the rest of the room? And she said, you know what? I'm not even sure what I do. So before coming here, I had to ask my employees, what is it that I do that make you appreciate me so much as your boss? And they said, first and foremost, you give me autonomy, but you let me fail. So trusting your employees to do their work in the way they think is best based on their training, but letting them know it's okay if you fail. If they don't accomplish something the way they want to, they need to feel comfortable coming back to you to say, this didn't work out the way I really wanted it to. Can you help me? And you can be there with a supporting hand to give them guidance and help them through that, rather than feeling like they need to be afraid to come to you because they made a mistake. So give me autonomy, but let me fail. That made an impression on me. So now let's talk about accountability. So you have caring established, but they need accountability as well. So how do we do this? Provide them with a formal training checklist and a roadmap for reaching each goal on the checklist. Provide honest and timely coaching and feedback in the moment. So you have structured performance reviews, but you also have those irreplaceable in the moment opportunities where you see an employee doing something and you have a tip for them. Put your hand on their shoulder and say, hey, I have some advice for you. Why don't you try doing it this way? That honest feedback and timely coaching is treasured because they want to improve. They want to be good at what they do. And you're showing in that moment that you care enough to stop and do that for them. These next 2 I love. And again, these come from action plans someone else wrote. So we get most of our great ideas from other clients. Select experienced employees to be super trainers in each skill area. So if you have employees who have been with you a long time and they're really good at a specialized skill set, Pair up new employees with these super trainers to teach them that skill area. Better yet, the next item on the list, you pair up personally with an employee each week for one-on-one special training so they could tap into your expertise and your skill set. I guarantee they'll love that special attention. And do performance reviews on time, setting aside the majority of the time for their goal setting and for marking their progress going forward. So usually folks think about a performance review as saying a couple nice things at the beginning and then talking about challenges. I think that should be reverse engineered, because what we find is if you address challenges first and talk about how you're going to help them surmount those challenges and support them, and then focus the rest of the time on goal setting. What do you want to accomplish in the next 30, 60, 90 days? Where do you see yourself in 3 years? And helping them create goals to meet those outcomes is what a great performance review really looks like. And keep me accountable for those goals. So again, back to accountability. If they're setting goals and you get to the next performance review and they haven't met them, then address that head on. What could we do to help you meet those goals, and how can we support you in that? And again, this last one is about showing recognition for their efforts, which we're about to explore in greater detail. The recognized contributor. I want to feel like a recognized contributor. Feeling recognized is the #1 driver of employee engagement. It's also among the lowest scores we see on our employee engagement surveys. This makes it a key opportunity to increase engagement for senior living communities. We have found from our research that recognition comes in 2 forms, informal and formal, and your employees want both. So examples of informal recognition would be on-the-fly feedback, just a thank you in the moment, a pat on the back. As I mentioned a moment ago, on-the-fly coaching, and those core value cards. So if you haven't heard of core value cards, what they are is you take each core value of your organization and you have cards printed up with that core value statement. And when you catch an employee in your community demonstrating one of the core values, hand them a card and say, great job. I just caught you demonstrating core value number 3. And you hand them this card. Then you take another copy of that same card and you put their name on it and you post it up on a core value board so everyone else could see it as well. That kind of recognition can be infectious. Formal feedback would be something like an Employee of the Month program, stories that you tell during stand-up staff meetings that you've prepared in advance, or awards that you hand out for good work. Celebrate birthdays and anniversaries. Hold social events to say thanks to all of your employees at once. You could do like a cookout, or take them bowling, or have a movie night or karaoke. And then the most formal type of recognition is a performance raise. So if you do those reviews on time with commensurate raises, you're showing them that you care by giving them the raise that they deserve. Disengaged employees are 12 times more likely to leave their jobs over a 1-year period over highly engaged employees. Your employees don't just want to be recognized for the fun of it. They want to earn it, and they want their voice to be heard. As this slider suggests, they want to be recognized because of their valued contributions to the team. Another survey item that typically scores low but is also a key driver of engagement on our surveys is my opinions and ideas are valued. Your employees are on the front line every day, which makes them your greatest resource for understanding the needs and desires of your residents and their fellow team members. Most of them do want to be actively involved in creating solutions to improvement opportunities they see in your community. Acknowledge them for those ideas, and more importantly, involve them in problem solving for solutions. I guarantee most of them will jump at that opportunity. So here's our recognition checklist. Give on-the-fly feedback when you see good work. Saying thank you and providing recognition is not natural for every boss. Some clients, that we have, they'll set daily goals or weekly goals for saying thank you and showing recognition. They might say, okay, today I'm going to thank 3 people, or by the end of this week, I will recognize 15 individuals. And if you haven't done this before, your employees will love it. They won't think it's weird that you're suddenly saying thanks. You'll find that it's worth it. I mean, just imagine yourself having worked on a project for a long time and you finished the project and you did great work and you're not used to your boss acknowledging you. And then unexpectedly in a meeting, he or she congratulates you for your good work and tells everyone what a great job you did. It just feels good. So let's look at the rest of the list. Again, you're seeing some repeat here. Give on-time performance reviews and commensurate raises. It's a great way of recognizing someone for their good work. We talked about an Employee of the Month program. That could include a special parking spot right at the front door, their photo at the entrance, a special badge or uniform that they wear. The sky's the limit when it comes to ideas about how to acknowledge an Employee of the Month. If you have an employee newsletter, put recognition articles in there, recognizing some key individuals who went above and beyond in the month prior. And if you do have an annual award ceremony every year, make sure to acknowledge folks at those award ceremonies with a certificate or a plaque. You might even keep track with points of which employee gets recognized most often or seems to be doing the best work, and offer a major giveaway at that annual conference. You could even send them off on a short cruise vacation. Celebrate birthdays and anniversaries monthly. So what we've seen done is you get everyone who has a birthday or anniversary, being a work anniversary, not a personal like wedding anniversary, and celebrate one party a month where you get all of them together. You have some cake and ice cream. You invite the entire community. Cake and ice cream, maybe everyone gets a card that was signed by all of their coworkers and the residents, and maybe they get a small gift. But recognizing them for those personal milestones mean a lot. We talked about social events. You could throw a cookout where you're cooking for them. The boss is the cook. Again, taking them bowling, karaoke, ice cream, etc. Maybe once a month, maybe once a quarter, whatever feels right for you. But just that group event that tells everyone at once, thank you for your hard work. Recognize employees in staff meetings. So the Ritz-Carlton calls this sharing the wow. If you have a monthly employee meeting where you get everyone together, put together some specific stories about something you saw happen the month before and share those stories. That's sharing the wow. That kind of public recognition is powerful. And so these next two address the idea of wanting your opinions and ideas to feel valued. So employees will come to you with ideas all the time. And what we see on our surveys is that most often they feel like they're not heard. But what if you had an employee suggestion box where your employees were told to put their ideas in the box, and that at the monthly staff meeting, you pull all of the ideas out and you read them, and you have everyone in the room vote on just 1 or 2 of those ideas. And then once you've selected those 1 or 2 ideas, you have your employees work in teams to create solutions to those ideas, because hopefully if they have an idea, they also have a solution to making it better, and then have them lead the action plans on those ideas that were voted on. That builds cohesiveness among your team members. It builds teamwork, and it also allows your community to improve. Okay, so let's do a quick recap of what we talked about today. Senior living is in a workforce crisis, but high unemployment today due to COVID-19 may present an opportunity to draw on a new pool of qualified workers. Building a culture of employee engagement is more important than ever before. The Millennial Generation, and no doubt Generation Z after them, are changing our traditional understanding of the employer-employee relationship. They look for passion and meaning in their work, so we need to respond or they will move on to another opportunity. How do engaged employees help you? Well, like we talked about earlier, they provide higher productivity, lower absenteeism, stronger customer ratings, but ultimately higher retention, because we all know it's easier to keep our employees than to have to replace them. And when you have higher retention, that trickles down to greater customer satisfaction, you'll see the financial benefits of your efforts as well through greater cash flow and profits. We talked today about how to maximize engagement in 3 areas. Provide an exciting culture and mission by living it for your employees every day and awarding them for doing the same, starting on day 1. Being a great boss, which we have seen is a balance between caring and accountability, and providing ample amounts of recognition, which is the #1 driver of employee engagement. So here's my recommendation to you. The checklists in these slides will be available to you as a handout after the webinar. I recommend you commit to integrating just a few of these ideas from each category into your routine. The best approach for creating a goal and sticking to it is to write a simple action plan with a measurable improvement goal so you can focus on meeting a specific defined outcome that is measurable. So it's just about, writing a goal and just setting up a few easy action steps that you could engage in every day, because we know that after about 3 months or so, those behaviors will start to feel natural to you. And in addition to the handouts, I can also provide you with a blank action plan form if you wanted to write some action plans. And with that, I thank you for your time, and I turn it back over to Andrea.
Terrific. Thanks so much, Lynn, especially in today's world. We don't have the luxury of being able to lose any of our workers. So I appreciate all your insights and also your recommendations. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
We've got a couple of quick questions. And again, if you have a question, you've got Lynn Ackerman, who is a wealth of knowledge. So I encourage everyone to let us know what you're thinking and if you have any questions. But we've got 2 in here so far. And one of them is a lot of turnover has to do with employees leaving for a higher paying job. Is there anything we can do to address this issue when we were bound by established pay rates?
That's a great question. And the whole question of pay and how do we overcome the fact that some of our employees are working at minimum wage, that always tends to be sort of a thorn in our sides, right, when it comes to competing with other organizations. And my best answer to you, I'm going to assume you've done your homework in terms of making sure that your pay scales are competitive with other senior living providers in your area. Beyond that, I would just circle it back on what we talked about today. Because if you do all of these things that lead to high levels of engagement and a positive, exciting culture, they start to feel like they're part of a family. And so if you're talking about them moving to another job for 25 cents more an hour or 50 cents more an hour, would they do that if they know they're leaving their family to do it? So give them other reasons to stay besides pay. I don't have the magic bullet on that one. I wish I could just, give all of your employees a huge raise. But that aside, I think if you just focus on giving them the feeling of home and family when they're working with you, they won't want to leave for 25 cents or 50 cents an hour.
That's great. Thanks, Lynn. Another question is, do you have any tips for attracting good candidates so we can hire qualified people?
Yes. So first of all, I actually watched a webinar that our own Andrea Catazone did a few months ago. I think it was back in May, that talked specifically about recruitment. And it was very detailed and had to do with developing various personas that represent the types of candidates you're going after, and then having a marketing campaign around drawing them in. So if you wanted to look back at that webinar, that would be helpful. But I did mention earlier today about Senior Living Works. So this is a website that Argentum set up. Right at the top, looking for a job, find one today through our COVID-19 Fast Match. So they have created an entire website for you and for job seekers dedicated to helping you position the industry and helping you with recruitment materials. They even have materials in here that allow you to go and talk to students in colleges or high schools, and different packets that you could download. There's a video you can watch but different packets that you can download. View our resources here. The first starts with you. So I'm not a recruitment expert myself, but this website seems to be doing a good job at providing guidance and materials around helping recruit the right people for the jobs that you're seeking to fill.
Terrific. Thanks, Lynn. Great resources. I think we're all set with questions. Again, thanks, Lynn, for all your valuable information and insight. And thank you all for attending. And have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Andrea. Thanks, everyone, for joining.